In a recent survey, the community overwhelmingly supports putting a pause on further drainage ditch work. Steve Larson and Martin Schechter co-author a broadcast email pleading with the community to support the fiscal year-end 2024 budget. The broadcast email references me and the MXB Wire twice. I have a response. And after an 8-year hiatus, the Beach Cam has returned. It's now online. My name is Greg Pickler of the MXB Wire at the Dune Road Studio, and you're watching my update for Friday, April 28th, 2023. My friends, as many of you are aware, we conducted an opinion survey into the fiscal year-end 2024 budget that the board plans to bring to a vote at the community meeting now scheduled for Saturday, May 6, 2023. The survey ran starting on Tuesday, April 11, and ran through Saturday, April 22nd. We reached out to 272 property owners. 31 responded, representing 30 properties in the community. So let's take a look at the results. Question 1. Do you want the board to move forward with the contentious line item in the fiscal year-end 2024 budget that is associated with the drainage ditch work that will cost approximately $500 per residential property owner or thereabouts? Of the 31 respondents, 26 answered no. Let's pause all drainage ditch work. And that represents 83.9% of the respondents. 3 answered not sure, I need more information. And that represents 9.7% of the respondents. 2 answered yes, let's move ahead with the plan. Question 2. If you voted no to question 1, do you want the monies associated with the line item in the fiscal year-end 2024 budget associated with the drainage ditch work to be diverted and earmarked to the capital reserve? This was Dempsey's idea at the virtual town hall conference call held on Thursday, March 16, 2023. Of the 30 respondents, 18 answered no, let's not collect the monies now for potentially future work. And that represents 60% of the respondents. 8 answered yes, let's collect the monies now and divert the monies to the capital reserve. And that represents 26.7% of the respondents. 10 answered not sure, and 1 individual answered, I intend to vote in favor of moving forward with the line item. Question 3. Did you attend the virtual town hall conference call held on Thursday, March 16, 2023? Of the 31 respondents, 22 answered no, that they did not attend the virtual town hall conference call. That represents 71% of the respondents. 9 answered yes, that they did attend the virtual town hall conference call. And that represents 29% of the respondents. Now, the reason I threw this in is I wanted to see if we had a group that was underrepresented in the survey. And that would pose as a red flag. I happen to know that approximately 45 non-board members attended that call. When you add the board members in, you get up to 54%, I believe. Sorry, 54 members. Now, 54 property owners, members who are property owners, would represent about 25% of the community, a little less than 25%. So the fact that we got 9 respondents, or 29%, tells me that the survey, both groups are well represented in the survey. There are really no red flags here. Question 4. If the community votes down the fiscal year end 2024 assessment, do you want the board to revert to the fiscal year end 2023 assessment, as Community President Paul Bradley plans to do? Of the 31 respondents, 17 answered no. I want the board to begin the process over again without the contentious line item. And that represents 54.8% of the respondents. 11 answered not sure, representing 35.5% of the respondents. 3 answered yes, and that represents 9.7% of all respondents. Question 5. In advance of the board elections meeting held on September 3rd, 2022, did you exercise your ballot handing it to a representative of the property management company at the meeting, or did you mail your ballot to the property management company? Again, this question is there to determine whether a group of individuals, a group of community members, are underrepresented in the survey. 18 of the 31 respondents said they mailed their ballot to the property management company, and that's 58%. Well, we know that about 60 representatives representing 60 properties attend those meetings, including the board members. So only 25% of the community attends the board elections meeting in September. The question is one of the groups underrepresented in the survey? It depends on the 9 people who answered not sure. So the percentage in this survey that attended the meeting could be anywhere from 3 to 12. 3 plus 9, 12. So 3 to 12. So split the difference. You get, let's say 7 to 8 people attended the meeting, which is approximately 25% of the respondents attended the meeting. So there are no red flags here. Both groups, depending on how this distributes and splits, both groups are represented in this survey. Both the people that attended the meeting and the people who did not attend the meeting. I want to jump down to question 7. In advance of the community meeting held on May 7th, 2022, did you exercise your assessment ballot, handing it to a representative of the property management company at the meeting, or did you mail your ballot to the property management company? Again, I threw this in here to determine if one of those groups is underrepresented in this survey. I would expect we'd have the same proportion as we did with the general election meeting in September. So if we look at the people who attended and voted at the meeting, voted for the assessment at the meeting, voted whether to vote up or down the assessment at the meeting. We know that 4 did. 9 were not sure. So if we split the difference, we get about 8. Let's say half of the people who are not sure did and half of them didn't. So if we split that 9, add the 4, we get 9 people out of 30 respondents. That's almost 30%. So 30% is pretty close to the proportion who actually attends the community meeting held in May to decide the assessment. So again, there are no red flags here. Both groups, the people that attend the community meeting in May and the people who do not, are well represented in the survey. Question 9. Did you rent your property for more than 2 weeks over the 2022 season? Again, this question is designed to determine if both groups are well represented in this survey. 29 people responded. 17 of the 29 answered no, whereas 12 of the 29 answered yes. We know that 48 properties are advertised as vacation rental properties. However, that's not the true story. Because of the 48, many offer their properties for just 1 or 2 weeks to pay off their assessment. And those are different groups of people. They have different attitudes, particularly about the advent of a rental tax. A person who rents their property for more than 2 weeks is more impacted by a rental tax than those who do not. And so, a rough guess, I would say that 30, of the 48, I would say 30 properties are vacation rental properties whose owners offer them as vacation rental properties for more than 2 weeks of any season, which means they're the people that are seeking rental income from their asset. So I'm looking at 30%, and what I'm getting is 40.4% said that they rent their property for more than 2 weeks, and 58.6 or 60% don't. So it's not far off from the ratio of, well, wait a minute, 30 properties would be 20%. So if anything, the group of property owners who do not rent their property is slightly underrepresented in this survey. We should see figure 80% here, and we're seeing about 60. So we've got a red flag there. The question is there any difference in attitude about the line item, the contentious line item, in the fiscal year end 2024 budget? Is there any attitude difference between the vacation rental property owners and non-vacation rental property owners? My gut feel is there shouldn't be. But that is a valid question. The last question has to do with people who seek to collect 6 to 8% rental tax and have those monies reduce their assessment. This was the objective of the 2017 petition. A group of representatives of approximately 30 properties. So 30 property owners out of 240 signed the petition demanding the board impose a 6 to 8% rental tax. There are more than 30, but they represent 30 properties. So I threw this in to see if one of these groups is underrepresented in this survey, and I'm expecting there are. See, what I was expecting, given the fact that I have the people who want to impose a rental tax regard me with a relatively negative approval rating. They regard me in a negative light compared to owners of vacation rental properties who largely regard me in a positive light. And the people that fit neither of those categories have a relatively neutral opinion of me. But focusing on the 30 individuals, the 30 owners of the 30 properties who signed this petition, when they see anything from me, they're going to throw it out. So I've got one respondent answered that they did sign the petition. And 6 said they weren't sure. Maybe their spouse or the co-owner of the property signed the petition. So if we split the difference, we get, let's say, 2 or 3 of these 6 did. Boy, that's optimistic. I would say maybe 1 or 2 of them did. So tops, maybe 3 out of the 30 respondents answered yes. That would be 10%. And we know that we have 30, which is approximately 12.5% of the community. Now, if you make that assumption, both groups are well represented, even though there's only one respondent that definitively said they did. We just don't know how many people did who are in this not sure category. I would expect that the group of people that signed the petition back in 2017 are underrepresented in this survey. And again, the question, then the red flag would be, is there attitudinal difference between people? Attitudinal difference towards the contentious line item on the fiscal year end 2024 budget between the group that seeks to claw off revenue off of vacation rental property owners versus those that do not. Again, I don't know. I would presume that they're not, but there could be. And if there were a strong correlation, a strong attitudinal difference between the two groups, then the survey would be questionable. The survey has a margin of error. The survey at 95% confidence level, a confidence level of 95%, the survey has a margin of error of 17%. My friends, earlier in the preamble, I mentioned that I came into receipt of a broadcast email message from Steve Larson and Martin Schechter, dated Friday, April 21st, 2023. I also mentioned that the broadcast email message references me and the MXB wire. There are a few points here that I'd like to go through that really have nothing to do with me. Larson and Schechter are advocating that the community pass the fiscal year end 2024 budget. And they make 2 arguments about why that budget should be adopted. The first point that Larson makes in his argument to vote for the fiscal year end 2024 budget is in the second paragraph. And he writes, the board, elected by a majority vote of the community, has made a decision which they feel is in the best interest of our community after its due diligence. Well, they always believe they make decisions in the best interest of our community. However, I think it's important to note that based on a recent survey, only 10% of people would agree with them. Only 10% believe that we should go ahead with the plan as the board has approved. And by the way, they approved it on a 5-4 vote. So this point that Larson makes is fairly weak. He also writes, importantly, the issue of drainage on the Pine side has been discussed by prior boards with little action for years, if not decades. He's right. It's been more than 20 years since we've done anything major, since we've effected a major project on the drainage ditches. So is one more year going to matter? We obviously need an engineering plan, and we need to execute towards an engineering plan. And we're just simply not doing that right now. And that is the reason that Bill Graves and I believe that we should put a pause on this project. And that's the reason why we're not seeing the work that's been done to be very effective. Sure, it's moved around water, it's relieved some properties of some water, but it's also loaded up some other properties with water. So I don't see that as being a marker of success. The other point that Larson makes is second. It doesn't appear that the consequences of voting no to this assessment has been fully spelled out. If the community rejects this assessment, we will use last year's budget to run our community. We note that there is $100,000 in last year's budget allocated for ditch and culvert repairs. I believe the correct figure is $120,000, but neither here nor there. This argument is also particularly weak because it basically says our job as members of the board is to decide what's in the best interest of the community, and your job is simply to vote for. There's nothing stopping this board from starting the process over without the contentious line item. There's nothing stopping this board from assembling a committee of people that are interested in this topic, get an engineering plan, and move on from there and hire Lindsay's company with a scope of work that's going to advance us in the pursuit of having water retention management in the community. Later, Larson writes, finally, thankfully, it seems so far the discussions have been mostly civil and respectful, a welcome change from some of the animosity and personal attacks that have arisen in other prior contexts, including the repaving of Dune Road and the possible purchase of the property on Bridge Road as an alternative to the guard shack relocation. I don't know anything about personal attack embedded in the repaving of Dune Road. However, I think what he means by the possible purchase of property on Bridge Road, I think what he's referring to is the comedy sketch that was embedded in the MXB update for Friday, March 24th. And that was the BTK combination guardhouse, meeting facility, and detention center. That was a comedy sketch. And he's equating a comedy sketch with animosity and personal attack. Well, if he's doing that and someone offers him free tickets to go see Dave Chappelle, an evening of comedy with Dave Chappelle, maybe he should consider staying home. Insofar as lecturing the community to refrain from personal attack. I feel these two men have no memory of what they put this community through. And perhaps you would have had to been a vacation rental property owner to fully appreciate that. But to recap, in 2017, Martin Schechter and Steve Larson put together a petition demanding the board charge vacation rental property owners 6 to 8% of their gross revenue. That failed. The board did not act on that. In a town hall meeting on February 10th, 2017, the two raised the issue again. Martin Schechter stated that, in his mind, clearly the vacation rental properties cost the community more than non-vacation rental properties, and a fee needed to be applied to them as compensation. And Steve Larson had a handout that illustrated the various fees that municipalities and homeowners associations charge for vacation rental incidents. And I'd like to show you that. Now, this is the illustration of fees that different municipalities and homeowners associations charge per rental incident to vacation rental property owners. What's missing from this list is what services these homeowners associations, for example, Salt Meadows, Ocean Ridge, Ocean Breezes, what's missing is the rental property specific services that these homeowners associations provide to vacation rental property owners. In the case of Ocean Breezes, they provide, for the exchange of $150, they provide a permit to their tenants to access different amenities. The same thing goes with Salt Meadows. Apparently they have a pool, and the $150 fee is in exchange for producing a permit to use that facility. But Larson and Schechter don't mention that. And I'm not sure if they were aware of what these homeowners associations were doing at the time, or they neglected it for nefarious purposes. But even if they did not know, they were certainly told years later by members of the community as well as the staff lawyer that fees that homeowners associations charge are matched to services particular to vacation rental properties. And they still persisted in trying to get the board to agree to put forward a covenant change that marks out a rental property fee. The fallout of that town hall meeting on February 10th, 2018, and I had the date wrong initially. It's not 2017, it's 2018. But the fallout from that meeting was a number of vacation rental property owners were quite rattled by what Steve was arguing. They were blindsided. Suddenly, they owe a lot of money. And it averages, if you consider a 8% rental tax, which is what they were looking for, it averaged $8,000, an average of $8,000 per vacation rental property owner. So if you're staring an additional expense you didn't plan on of $8,000, these people are beginning to defer renovation projects, and they're engaging lawyers to find out What is the legal merit behind charging them for a large rental tax with in the absence of a rental specific service? So they're exchanging an average of $8,000 and receiving nothing in return. So they're quite put off by all this. Well, in 2019, the campaign to extract a rental tax from the vacation rental property owners escalated. And in late March 2019, Martin Schechter, distributed a broadcast letter. And the letter, again, rattled the population of vacation rental property owners. In Schechter's broadcast letter, which he distributes in late March of 2019, he advocates for the implementation of a rental tax. He starts off by invoking the flag. I'll just start with paragraph 2. We together are involved in an incredible experiment in participatory democracy, not to be taken for granted, the opportunity and the freedom to organize, in effect, to govern ourselves in a positive, hopefully generous manner, being aware that what we do affects owners in the community. The decisions we make must take the feelings of others into consideration, and at times those considerations must come first. I believe this is the responsibility of the board and the membership which it represents. So he's invoking democracy. So he goes on. Let me scroll up. I ran for the board after spending almost 30 summers here. I observed changes which I couldn't complain about. Quote, if not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. I saw a house built in our residential community which was virtually a vertical motel. I believe he's referring to the property of 53 Dune Road, which at the time was owned by the Kazemzidas, Ali and Jennifer Kazemzida. They no longer own that property. And it's no longer a vacation rental property, which means it's okay. The owners felt no responsibility for its effect on the adjacent properties or, for that matter, on the community as a whole. I witnessed a small group of outraged homeowners threaten a lawsuit because they felt the board is trying to fulfill its responsibilities to maintain the roads in our community, was stealing their property and therefore reducing their property values by millions of dollars. By association, I also became accused of this theft. That road paving, having been completed, has enhanced the aesthetics of our community and directly increased the value of all homes on Dune Road. Well, that is unrelated to what he refers to as the vertical motel. In any event, he's clearly cultivating hatred towards a vacation rental property owner, and with cultivating hatred, getting the community to be more amenable to follow his whims to impose a rental tax. So he goes on. Once again, the community is being threatened with lawsuits as we try to fulfill our fiduciary responsibilities to the community. As a result, in part, to a petition put forth by the community, which proposed a rental fee, lodging fee, paid by the renter, not by the owner, as a percentage of the rent, to be implemented in order to increase funds which would be used for unforeseen emergencies, major maintenance issues, beach replenishment, etc., seemingly inevitable events, and to stabilize or reduce our HOA fees, which have been growing at an increasing rate. Well, the person he's referring to, I'm one of the people that he's referring to. I did threaten to file a lawsuit should they go ahead and package a covenant change that would introduce an 8% rental tax. In that rental tax, you can see here they're not packaging it with a service specific to rental properties. vacation rental properties, they're doing it to put it in their pocket. So they're charging a rental fee in the absence of providing a service. And that's the major flaw in this whole argument. And then he goes on, and here's the big reveal. In order to implement these fees or make changes to our building policies regarding size of homes or numbers of bedrooms, we must change or enact new covenants. This can only be done by a 60% majority vote of the community. I believe it is only proper that the community has an opportunity to discuss and decide how we would like to proceed on these significant issues. The man thinks the only thing that's necessary is getting a 60% majority vote. And due to the premise of democracy, that gives them the legal right to extract money from vacation rental property owners in exchange for nothing. In exchange for nothing. You know, this is why we have courts in the system. Not everything is dictated by majority vote. We could have a majority vote tomorrow that all members who are on a fixed income, on a teacher's pension, who wear mustaches, have to pay an additional $10,000 a year. And if 60% of people vote for that, how would Martin Schechter feel about that? It's a majority vote. Democracy. You know, I think the answer is obvious. Martin Schechter's broadcast letter, which he distributed in late March of 2019, had a profound impact on the community. For example, on the event that a community member on social media complained that his or her trash was not collected by the waste disposal service, the other community members on social media blamed the vacation rental properties. They didn't say that it was due to the fact it was high season and that over 90% of the properties were occupied. No, it was the vacation rental properties. There were other comments like this, always blaming the vacation rental properties and their owners. That was exactly the reaction that Martin Schechter was hoping to garner. He was hoping to cultivate hatred towards the vacation rental properties. Over the course of the next year and a half, the members of the board argued back and forth as to the merits of proctoring a covenant change to introduce a rental tax against vacation rental property owners. The board solicited 2 opinions from the staff lawyer, Mary Schreider Fox. The legal opinions were not favorable to charging vacation rental properties fees in the absence of a rental property specific service. Ergo, a key service or a permit service for the tenants of a vacation rental property, etc. The legal opinions did not, however, deter Schechter and Larson, who continued to solicit the board to proctor a vote on a covenant change that would include rental fees. Ultimately, their efforts fell short of the majority necessary to propose a covenant change to the community for an up or down vote. And what happens when people get frustrated that their arguments aren't gaining traction? They resort to personal attack. On September 19, 2020, during the meeting to proctor the general election of board positions, both Larson and Schechter resort to ad hominem attack against the opponents of a covenant change in the respective candidate introductions. This is an excerpt of Martin Schechter's candidate introduction at the general election held on September 19th, 2020.
A feeling of debt and appreciation and a desire to contribute and give back. Unfortunately, not everyone feels this way. There is one who is using his social media skills to defame, malign, and insult members of the board and other members of the community who may disagree with his views. He misrepresented and misinformed the community about issues and people. His selfishness is obvious. The only thing he cares about is how much money he can take out of this community. He is a divisive force who disrespects the entire concept of community. I felt remiss as a member of the community in not making this comment.
This is an excerpt of Steve Larson's candidate introduction at the general election on September 19th, 2020.
And in closing, kind of along the lines of what Nancy covered briefly, I think there have been communications and emails that have gone out about this rental fee issue, and unfortunately, I think not all of it has been accurate. There's no proposal in front of the community. There's no proposal in front of the board. There was a petition several years ago, which is not kind of active. And I think the most important point, like many other issues that we face, this ultimately has to be decided by the community, not by one board member or three board members, or even the entire board can't decide this. Ultimately, it's up to the community, and I do agree that we should have a discussion. Certainly, given my vantage point as chairman of the Budget Committee and treasurer, I think it's incumbent on the board to present to the community options for addressing how we finance our community, particularly in reference to the way many other communities, both in Delaware and frankly nationally, do that. And ultimately, the community decides they want to do something or they don't through a vote, and we move on, and hopefully that can be done in a way that is not contentious. It doesn't have to be, but it seems that some people want to turn it into that. So I think we can have a discussion, and I appreciate the opportunity to do this work.
Lastly, I would like to announce that we have a new beach cam. The details about the new beach cam are written in the description below. If you would like to support my channel and the work I do here, please press the button like below the video. And if you haven't already done so, please press the button subscribe so you won't miss another one of my updates. Finally, I wish you a peaceful sky wherever you are. Have a great time.